Mini abstract wood sculptures for desk decor aren't meant to be centerpieces. They're not the kind of objects you stare at for hours, or the kind you buy just to show off. They're smaller, quieter things. A few inches tall, maybe the size of a hand, sometimes no bigger than a coffee mug. They don't take over a desk. They sit within it, warm, textured, and solid, softening the sharp lines and hard surfaces that usually define workspaces. Most of these sculptures start simple, one solid block or a few pieces of wood, chosen for grain and tone more than size. Walnut for depth, with dark, swirling lines. Maple for a lighter, almost glowing surface. Oak or ash, where the texture of the grain stands out even when the form is subtle. Some are made from reclaimed pieces, offcuts or fragments from larger projects, given new purpose rather than thrown away. The wood itself, before it's shaped, already carries enough variation to feel alive. The forms are abstract, and that's what makes them work. Smooth curves that twist and fold like frozen ribbons, each angle catching light differently as you move around it. Geometric stacks, cubes, spheres, or facete shapes balanced in quiet arrangements. Interlocking loops, spirals, or wave-like lines that feel fluid even though they are solid. These aren't sculptures of anything specific. They're just forms, meant to sit in the corner of a desk or shelf and change how the space feels. Their size is part of the appeal. On a desk filled with screens, papers, pens, and cables, something small but solid breaks up the clutter. You can pick them up, turn them in your hand, feel the grain under your fingers. They're not so precious that they can't be touched. In fact, the best ones are built to be handled, finished with oils or waxes instead of thick varnish, so the wood feels natural, not sealed under plastic. Some sculptures lean more refined, their surfaces perfectly sanded, every edge softened until they almost feel like river stones. Others embrace texture, hand-carved facets, rougher cuts left visible, or charred sections that bring in a darker contrast. Both styles work, because they share the same restraint. They never try to be flashy. They exist to ground the space, not to distract from it. Finishes are always subtle. Matte oils that deepen the color but leave the wood warm to the touch. Sometimes two tones are paired in a single piece, a pale maple against a rich walnut, so the contrast stays soft but visible. Rarely, a section is blackened or left slightly raw, adding just enough variety without making the sculpture feel loud. The finish isn't meant to cover the wood. It's meant to let the grain speak, to let the material carry the weight. These mini sculptures work because they make a desk feel less mechanical. A workspace is usually defined by hard materials, glass, steel, plastic, cold surfaces designed for efficiency. Adding something organic, even something this small, changes the atmosphere. It doesn't turn the desk into a gallery. It just gives your eyes and hands a break. A shape to glance at when the screen feels too bright. A solid object to hold when the day feels too fast. Some people keep just one, a single piece, centered or tucked in a corner, acting like a quiet anchor. Others use a small collection, 2 or 3 shapes, arranged loosely so the desk feels less like a workstation and more like a space that belongs to them. There's no rule for how they sit. They don't need symmetry. They just need space to exist without getting buried under paper and tools. The process of making these sculptures is often slower than it looks. Each curve, each angle, is refined by hand, even if machines do the rough shaping. Edges are tested by touch, not just sight, so they feel right when you pick the piece up. The wood is sanded and finished carefully, not to erase its natural character, but to bring it forward. These aren't factory objects. Even the most geometric ones carry the slight variations that prove they were shaped by hand. And when the day winds down, when the desk clears and the light in the room softens, these sculptures shift again. The curves and planes catch the glow differently than they did in the bright light of morning. The darker woods sink deeper into shadow, the lighter ones catch faint reflections, and the forms feel calmer, almost stiller than they did before. They stop feeling like objects and start feeling like quiet parts of the space, holding it together without any need to be noticed. It's in those moments, when the screens are dark, the papers are stacked away, and the room feels like it can breathe, that these mini abstract wood sculptures do their real work. They don't fill the desk. They don't pull your focus. They just sit, grounded and warm, adding weight to the space without ever demanding it. They make a desk feel less like a tool and more like a place you actually want to be, even when the work is done. Mini abstract wood sculptures for desk decor bring something to a workspace that's hard to find in anything mass-produced or purely functional. They are small in scale but carry a surprising amount of presence, pieces that sit quietly on a desk, a shelf, or a side table, yet shift the energy of a room with nothing more than their shape, texture, and the quiet weight of natural wood. They don't need to be large to command attention. They don't even need to be complex. Their strength lies in the way they merge the organic warmth of wood with abstract forms that invite the eye to linger, the hand to reach out, and the mind to slow down for a moment in the middle of a busy day. The first thing you notice about these sculptures is their intimacy. Unlike wall art or larger freestanding pieces, you can approach them fully, pick them up, turn them in your hand if they're not fixed in place. They're not designed to dominate a room, they're designed to create a personal connection, to bring a moment of calm or intrigue to a space that's otherwise filled with screens, papers, and the constant hum of activity. Their small size makes them approachable, something you can study up close, noticing every line of grain, every curve or angle, every shift in tone as the light moves across their surfaces. Their forms vary widely, but each one leans into abstraction rather than literal imagery. Some are smooth, flowing shapes, like river stones that have been stretched or bent into unexpected curves, their surfaces polished to a soft sheen that catches the light gently. Others are more geometric, built from interlocking planes or facets that seem to shift as you tilt the piece, the lines sharp but softened by the natural texture of the wood. There are spiral forms that twist upward as though captured in mid-motion, stacked arcs that balance precariously yet gracefully, and organic knots or loops that feel like they've been shaped by years of wind and water, even if they were carefully carved by hand. The wood itself is as much the point as the shapes. Each species brings a different tone, texture, and mood to the sculpture. Walnut, with its deep, rich browns and subtle purples, feels grounded and sophisticated, while lighter woods like ash, maple, or birch bring an airy, calming quality. Some sculptures combine multiple woods, contrasting pale and dark tones to emphasize their forms without needing paint or stain. The grain is always a part of the design, sometimes running smoothly along a curve, sometimes swirling unpredictably around a knot or junction, sometimes contrasting sharply where two planes meet. The finish tends to be matte or satin, allowing the wood to breathe and keeping the focus on the material itself rather than a layer of gloss. Lighting transforms these small sculptures just as much as their larger counterparts, though in subtler ways. On a desk near a window, they glow softly in the morning, their grain catching sunlight and their curves casting delicate shadows on the surface below. As the day moves and the light changes, they take on new moods, the shadows deepen, the highlights shift, the forms feel different even though they haven't moved. In the evening, under the warm light of a lamp, they can feel almost like companions, their shapes softened by shadows, their tones deepening into richer hues. Even the smallest movement of a light source or a passing shadow in the room can make them seem alive. Their scale invites touch, and that's part of their appeal. While you wouldn't run your hand along a large wall installation every time you pass, these mini sculptures practically invite it. The curve of a polished arc, the cool smoothness of a carved plane, the way the grain feels under your fingertips, they're tactile in a way that connects you to the material. That simple act of picking one up or just brushing a hand along its edge can become a small ritual, a momentary pause in the day that draws you out of whatever rush you're caught in. They also bring balance to the spaces they inhabit. A desk, especially one cluttered with the tools of work, keyboards, notebooks, cables, screens, can feel sterile or chaotic, all sharp edges and straight lines. A small abstract wood sculpture cuts through that, not with bright color or flashy design, but with the quiet warmth of natural material and the soft rhythm of an organic or geometric form. It doesn't distract, it centers. It makes the space feel a little more human, a little more grounded, as though a fragment of something natural and enduring has been placed among all the temporary, utilitarian objects of modern work. Over time, these sculptures develop a kind of relationship with the person who keeps them nearby. Wood ages, even when finished, and its tones deepen, its surfaces subtly change with touch and exposure to light. A walnut piece may grow richer, its highs polishing from the oils of fingertips while its recesses remain darker and matte. A pale maple form might gain a soft golden hue, warming as it lives in the same space day after day. These changes make the piece feel less like an object and more like something alive, something evolving quietly alongside its owner. Their versatility also makes them ideal for nearly any setting. On a desk, they act as a grounding element, a point of calm focus. On a bookshelf, they break up rows of spines with shape and warmth. On a nightstand, they become a kind of quiet companion, something to catch the eye in the soft light before sleep. Their neutral tones and abstract shapes make them adaptable. They can sit in a minimalist studio, a warm rustic home office, or a sleek contemporary living space without ever feeling out of place. More than anything, though, mini abstract wood sculptures bring a sense of presence to spaces that are otherwise dominated by things designed only for function. They remind you, in the smallest, quietest way, that beauty doesn't have to be loud or large to make a difference. They slow the eye and the mind, if only for a few seconds, grounding you in something tangible, tactile, and enduring. In a world filled with digital screens and disposable objects, that small moment of connection, with shape, with material, with something designed to last, can change how a space feels, and maybe even how a day feels, without ever asking for more than a passing glance or a gentle touch.